It means for me to kind of open your eyes and your brains up to know that there's a lot of opportunities that you don't even consider them being opportunities, right? Kind of closing the gap between what you know you don't know and what you don't know you don't know, right? That's kind of where my mind is as far as the value that I want to bring you guys is to know how to identify the deals. We're going to talk after how to make them happen, but at the end of the day, most of the people that I see either don't know they have a deal, or if someone told them they have a deal, so in other words, they know there's a deal there, they don't even understand how to bring it to fruition and close full cycle on it and actually get it, right? So hopefully towards the end, I'm going to talk about some strategies on how you can actually close on those deals and monetize on them. I'm going to keep this light. If you guys have any questions, I'm not going to leave them to the end. As I speak, if someone has a question about something that I said, it's important for me to address it because likely there's someone next to him that has the same exact question and they just didn't raise their hand, and I want to hash it out before going to the next subject, and then people didn't really understand what was the first one. So I think we can start about how to identify opportunities. Again, none of this today was planned by me. I'm just freelancing it because I just kind of want to feel you guys out and see what you have passion for, where's your hat at, and then just based on that, I'm going to adjust, the conversation. So let me give you an example of the deal that I did that most of you all wouldn't even think potentially that it's even a deal. I bought let me see, it was probably over a half a block of warehouse that was direct to seller. Who knows what direct to seller is? Cool. How many SubTos and gators in the house?
Yes.
Okay, all right, good stuff. How many people here did over 10 transactions in real estate? Okay. How many did more than 5?
More than 510?
Exactly. I'm just checking if everyone's alert. Who did 5 transactions? Okay. Who's looking for his first deal? That's what's up. All right. So the warehouse was direct to seller, meaning it was an older guy that had a really successful electric shop. He used to have electricians work for him. At some point, he had close to 30 employees. He was getting ready to retire. He was in his late 60s. He didn't want to have nothing to do with the business. He's down to 2 trucks, and he's just looking to sell it. Was able to work out a deal through one of my wholesalers. He had it under contract for $600,000, and eventually I got it cash. We're going to talk about the intricacies of how. Got it, knocked it down for another $100,000. So it's about 700 in. What we did, we sold half of the land that was left after we removed it for about 750. Got all the money back, right? Then took a construction loan, built an apartment building on the half that we had left for about close to $3.4 million. And we refied at an evaluation of $6 million. Today it's worth $7.5 million.
Nice.
How many units?
25. So how many people would have just drove by that falling apart warehouse
Yeah.
right? Considering it an eyesore.
Did you buy location?
I buy ugly. The uglier, the better. You see ugly, I see sexy. Ooh. Hey, you. That's what I see. The uglier, the better, because less people will want it, less competition. One of the things we always want to identify is the pain point. Usually people with anomalies, properties that are ugly and not desirable are also sitting on them longer, and they find that it's harder for them to actually sell and move, right? And then comes the knight on the white horse, you, and starting to talk to them and negotiate, and then suddenly, ooh, someone's interested, you know? I mean, he's not going to give me 1.2 million, but, you know, hell, they're serious, right? So, you really need to understand that one's trash is other's treasure, right? You probably heard that before. I feel that a lot of people don't really understand that concept, and that concept can make you a lot of money multifamily. One of them is through value add plays. Anybody here heard of the term value add? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Who wants to tell me what it means?
When you're adding value to the property to make it nicer so that it's more expensive, you're adding the value to increase the price.
Like force appreciation.
You're taking some sort of ugly and making it less ugly with the idea that your investment of, say, $500,000 in upgrade to it really adds $2 million in equity to the property. Make it up.
Okay, so I'm going to repeat on the mic for the video, because I don't know that they caught you. Some people here in the crowd said the same thing in a little bit different way, but it's the same thing of making a property nicer. So we force appreciation on the asset, which means we make it appreciate more at value. And that's where the word force appreciation comes from. Now, there's one way to do that, like it was said here, which is through renovation, right? If it's really ugly, like you're gonna hopefully like by the time I'm done tonight, then you need to do more work than just, as we call, lipstick on a pig. But there's also another way, which is way less invasive, way more. It takes a little bit longer, but it doesn't cost as much money. Which is, anybody?
Dividing the property. Pulling something off.
I like where your head is.
Yeah.
But no, rents, right? So if you increase the rents,
Increase NOI. You increase the NOI, eventually increase the value of the house.
you increase the rent, you increase the NOI, net operating income, and then you increase the value of the house, or the property, or the asset, or the project. Why?
Because eventually they calculate by the cap rate, which the value of the house will be super high.
Yeah, so the cap rate is a part of the equation, but in like simplifying things, the valuation of the property in multifamily is income driven. It's not comparable like comps. So you determine a valuation of multifamily based on how much money it's producing, not based on how much another multifamily next door got sold. So you increasing the NOI, net operating income of the asset, will automatically yield a higher value of the property. So thank you for that. So if you take a property, a multifamily property from someone that say built it, what is you guys have a college here down I don't remember. I had negotiated, it's gonna come back to me, but I'm not trying to remember. There's a lot of older people that built multifamilies, 30 units, 60 units, and they just want to retire. They don't want to put a dime in the property. They're tired from running it. Their pain point is that they just want out. They had enough. So you can pull these value add plays relatively easy and quickly because they never raised the rents for 5 years, 7 years. Because they didn't want to deal with turnover. They didn't want to deal with changing the tenants, repainting the apartment, dealing with the contractors, fixing the kitchens, replacing the kitchens, the expense, the time, the headache, the money, right? So it's almost like you can double dip. You can make it nicer, which is going to make it easier for you to commence actually a higher rate of rent because now it's nicer, right? So that's another way to do that. Anybody has questions so far about anything that I said?
How easy is it to raise the rent though?
Is it easy to raise the rents?
Yeah. How easy? How easy?
Okay, well, if you did your market analysis to see how nicer rents in the area are getting paid, and you're not like in La La Land about raising it, from 600 to 1,200, right? And you know that nicer condition units in your area are making 850, and you try to raise it first to 800 to occupy 60-70% of it, and then the remaining at 850 because you want to do it as quickly as possible. So you're not going to go at the highest price point right off the bat, right? Then it's relatively easy, but like most things in life, I always say, if things don't work, we're the problem. We have to figure out what we're doing wrong, right? So it's relatively easy. The only caveat is that it takes time, right? Like people put on pro forma when they try to sell you, listen, it's 20% below market value, it's worth so much, but you can force appreciate, make it much more. Yeah, but it takes time, right? I had a deal in Myrtle Beach in South Carolina, 119 units. The guy wanted 13.6 million, and ended up getting it for 10.5. You're done forcing appreciation on it is 16.5, right? So the more you can get it for cheaper and force the appreciation, then you increasing the spread, right? So those things take time to understand and to realize, but more importantly, you have to understand that it's a much longer and more complicated play than straightforward single family. I want to try to help you frame out in your head creative ways to buy multifamily. Okay? Anybody here did any creative multifamily acquisition in the past?
Not creative, but traditional.
Traditional.
Yeah.
Okay. Our focus tonight is creative, I'm told. Someone in the back or someone here? You did? You want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, it was a 6-unit apartment building in Florida, and the seller wanted to, like you said, retire. They didn't want the property anymore, so we made a down payment to them, took over the property, needed a lot of renovations. But it was a decent deal. We had it for a few years until it caught fire, but it was a good deal.
So you key takes from that transaction. How did you get it, by the way? When you say creative, how did you get it?
So it was when I first got into real estate a while ago, and we were just driving neighborhoods and looking for, properties that were in need of repair, and came across this building. We found someone who knew the owner, and the neighbors really wanted somebody to take it over and make it better because it was kind of an eyesore in the neighborhood, so they put us in contact with the owner.
There you go. There you go.
Did you structure a seller finance or?
Yeah, yeah.
So how did you structure it?
Oh, it was a while ago.
Okay.
The seller had an amount that he wanted for down payment, and they were willing to carry the note for, gosh, it was like 10, 15 years.
Okay.
So really, they just want, the down payment was the most important thing to them because they just wanted money to get out of it. They had been like fined by the city for repairs and that kind of thing, so it was really just
Yeah.
give me dollars in my
Yeah.
pocket, take the headache, and
Right. Yeah. So first and foremost, you have to figure out how much pain someone endures, right? The more pain, the more opportunity for us to get in and work better terms. Seller financing could be achieved by multiple ways. You have to evaluate the current financial structure, meaning is it free and clear? Is there a mortgage in place? How far in are they paying the mortgage? Right? If it's a 30-year mortgage and they just got it 2 years ago, it's a much bigger, issue than if they're like they got 10 years left on it, right? What's the interest rate like? Is it an interest rate from 10 years ago or 12 years ago where it's at 2.9%? Believe it or not, I've seen it, right? You can't get 2.9% today, no, you jump on your head, you ain't gonna get it, right? So there's things that needs to be evaluated before you can actually construct an initial approach on how to do a creative proposition. So you have a framework, but it's not necessarily going to be that framework because you're going to go some back and forth. You're going to do a little bit of due diligence. You're going to learn things that you didn't in the beginning when you put that together, and then you're going to modify it and tweak it as you go, right? So an example on, let's just say, the $3 million acquisition. I'm going to make it simple for sake of people to just stay with me. $2 million mortgage on the property. You can do a few things. The first thing you can do, you can assume the debt, which means that you're taking over the existing debt from the bank and you become the owner of that debt, right? We have the SubTo option, which is subject to, where you basically take ownership, but the mortgage stays under their name and you're just making payments. People that are not comfortable with that because they don't know if you're going to default and they're going to basically be on the hook with it. First of all, there's good contracts in place, but you can also, as another layer of security to reassure them, you can set up a cross-collateralization by a different asset that will collateralize that mortgage in the event you default. So people say, okay, well, if you set that up and worst case scenario, you don't pay, I can take possession of that property, liquidate it, and pay my mortgage. It just needs to be enough spread in there, right? So at the end of the day, the numbers have to make sense because if the current debt service leaves you so little spread and you don't have enough to work with, you don't have enough to work with. So the numbers have to make sense. I'm trying to keep it very, very simple and not go too deep. Another way to do this is to get into the owner's LLC, which is a very easy way to do it. So, what's your name?
Me? Oh,
Anton. So you buy your properties under an LLC, right? You don't buy them under Anton, right?
Right.
Okay, so give me a name of one of your LLCs.
Blanca Peak Properties.
Blanca who?
Blanca Peak Properties.
Blanca Peak, okay.
Every LLC I have is named after a geographic feature in the state where that LLC is housed.
Okay, so let's just say it's in Miami and it's called Miami LLC. All right? So I want to buy his multifamily, and his multifamily is owned by Miami LLC. Then I can become a member on his operating agreement of that LLC in order for me to be an owner of that property. Now, we can change voting rights, meaning that he doesn't have any power over the asset in the event that I initiate a sale because I don't want it anymore, or I can't pay it anymore, or whatever the case might be. So he doesn't have powers as a member of that LLC. That's a creative way to do it. But the bigger and more important thing is for people that are against selling on a creative term, is for them to understand the tax implications of doing so. Because if I'll give him $3 million, anybody knows how much tax he's going to have to pay?
15-20%.
15?
15 to 20% maybe.
I wish.
It could be 30, 40 pretty easily.
Yeah.
30, 40, really easy. Yeah, exactly, right? So wouldn't it be easier for him, right, if I become a member on his Miami LLC, I'll pay his note payment. Let's just say his mortgage payment is $10,000. Okay, I'm going to give him $200,000, $100,000, which is only going to be subject to his taxes. And instead of paying $10,000 a month, I'll pay him $12,000 or $15,000. 10 would go towards the debt, 5 will go in his pocket. And the 5 he can hedge against depreciation. He's not going to even get fully taxed on that 5,000 spread, because he can basically enjoy a lot of tax brackets, write-offs that he's otherwise wouldn't be able to do with a $5,000 a month income. Am I making sense to everybody by now?
Yep.
Okay. So that's another structure, right? I like cross-collateralization because it gives people a lot of times another sense of security. The number one objective from people when it comes to SubTo is, what if you're not going to pay, right? And you say, well, there's great contracts in place. If this and that happens, then this and that happens. That's great. They don't want to head, right? Well, okay. So sometimes you got to push harder. You got to get creative with the creative deals. You got to figure out the pain points, what's more important to them. I like to say, okay, this is a homeowner. What do you care about the most? How much are you making out of this? And if she's making $5,000 a month, and I can give her the same $5,000 a month, but she walks away and she doesn't need to manage the asset, she doesn't have the headache of the tenants calling her for leaky toilets and faucets, right? And I give her $100,000 in her pocket, and I can 5-7 years from now give her the remaining, which we're going to discuss. It's called the balloon payment. Who knows what's a balloon payment? Okay. Right. Then that's great. So every situation is different. Get to your head. There's no template here. There's just no. You can have the same exact properties owned by Miami LLC and Alaska LLC by the same owner that likes to call the LLCs based on their locations for the same amounts, and they're going to be different deals because the debt is going to be different. The door count, which mandates the NOI, will be different. How long they're in this mortgage versus how long they're in this mortgage, right? There's a lot of variations that you have to consider. So why you got to work so hard being a detective instead of just asking the person? What do you want? Not why you're selling. Because if you think that you're going to get the truth, then you're more naive than what you give yourself credit to. Okay? Yes, you have a question?
Yeah, just for clarification on if you were offering cross-collateralization, does that need to be an asset that you fully own, or could it also have a mortgage on it?
It could have a mortgage on it, but the numbers have to make sense that there is enough spread right? Like I have a property that is worth over $850,000 that I have a $200,000 mortgage on, right? So if you come and you sell that property tomorrow because I didn't pay you, right, and you fire sale it, you're not gonna fire sale it for $850 plus your closing costs and all the stuff. You may be gonna get $750. Even after the $200 is taken, you still end up with a difference of $550 in your pocket, right? So again, the numbers have to work. I can give you theories from here to the wazoo. You have to look at the numbers. The numbers don't lie. And I tell that to people all the time. With a small caveat, in multifamily, a lot of times because the spreadsheet does a lot of numbers, people have the tendency to beat the numbers up, you know, because they want the asset so much. Oh, this is great, this is beautiful, this is, you know, they get emotional about it, and they're like, no, but it's not, the numbers don't make sense. No, they do. You beat the numbers hard enough, eventually they'll tell you what you want to hear. I've seen it happen all the time.
Yeah, they buy the potential, not the data.
Right?
Or you make the data seem like you're buying the data.
So
when you're doing an LLC acquisition like that, how do you explore what liability you might be acquiring along with the property? Like legal liabilities? You're buying someone's LLC.
that's a great question. Thank you for that. So you can rewrite the operating agreement to say that you're not assuming liabilities, right? Now, there is a caveat to that answer, because what if you're buying it and you did something wrong? Why would the other guy want to assume liability for your mistakes? Right? So you're going to get an insurance policy. There's going to be timelines saying, example, lawsuits prior to the date of purchase belongs to him, that's his liability, right? A caveat I have to give, this is not a legal advice, I'm not an attorney, it's all for entertainment purposes only. I'm sorry, right? You're
But
asking
if
what?
if the liability is ultimately against the asset that's in there, it doesn't, if they get a judgment against him on that LLC, the piece of property is still the only asset there. So that's what they're gonna collect against.
Yes. So there's cons and pros to every scenario, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that you have to outweigh
There could be reasons why, yeah.
the cons and pros against other things. You cannot airtight any option, even conventional.
Yeah.
You go
There
to a
could be
bank.
reasons why. Yeah.
Right, but beyond that, there's nothing that is airtight from risk. There's always danger in things happening, creative or not. We do our best.
Yeah, I was just trying to see how you particularly mitigate that risk.
Well,
That's interesting.
yes. So I first and foremost, the control is big. You want to make sure that if he's on an LLC, he doesn't control the asset. He doesn't have any voting rights. Because if you want to say sell it at some point, and he still has voting rights, he can not let you sell it, right? So that's, for example, something that I always look at. Your partner's on paper, but you kind of don't want to have him keep teeth in his mouth
Don't want to
for
be
biting you. Yeah. So even the cross-collateralization, right? Like we can play that out and say, listen, but what if there's going to be a tax lien? You know, a tax lien is getting seniority over any kind of debt, right? And so then the mortgage is going to get paid first. I'm going to be second. Lien's going to be first. Then I'm going to be third. Not to say it wasn't a good question. It's a good question in the sense that you're thinking right, because you're trying to get things done the right way, and it's always better than people just rushing into things without putting any thought process in place. So I appreciate that a great deal. Thank you for that. Another way that is not an LLC is assuming a debt. I don't like assuming a debt for you guys because you don't have a track record of actually owning most of you at least successfully multifamily, so you will likely not get approved because the bank is looking for people that actually had multifamily history before they can give them loans, because they're not looking to give loans to people that never own multifamily, because for them they consider it high risk. So for you to assume a loan of someone, you got to go through the process of getting approved. You had a question?
How many do you need to have from past experience for them to then allow you to get approved for that?
That's a great question. So there's no rule, right? But here's the but. If you shop it with small local banks that don't have a lot of customers, that they either are looking to expand on the commercial portfolio, or they don't have enough in that year, and you don't know unless you try, then you can be pleasantly surprised how lenient they're going to be. And I'll even take it a step further. This is a secret that nobody, well, not nobody, but a lot of people don't know. Get a good commercial broker. He'll shop it around for you for a half a point, and he'll find those banks for you. Because people are getting loans without any history or track record for multifamily with no record in multifamily.
Regional and community banks do that.
Community, some federal banks, yeah, so it's not impossible. Just like anything else in life, you gotta know what you look for. Right? Great question. Thank you.
What do the banks consider like a good track record? Like if I own 15 single-family homes and maybe a couple of duplexes, they still don't even consider that a track
Great
record?
question. So,
or is it only 5 and above?
You gave yourself half of the answer. I'm going to repeat it for everyone else to understand what was just said. What would the banks consider for you to have enough track record of owning multifamily? So if you want to get a duplex, then if you owned anything below 5 units, it shouldn't be a problem, because anything above 5 units is considered commercial. So it's not a problem. If you want to go for a loan for anything above 5, and it could be 15, it could be 50, it could be 500, anything above 5 considered commercial, which, by the way, you got to factor double the insurance. Like you go between 5 and 6, it's almost double the insurance. It's crazy, just because that category changed. Yeah. So, in essence, you're not going to have an issue with duplexes and anything below 5, but anything over 5 might be a problem. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, I was just trying to figure out like if the banks will look at me as a high risk, despite the fact that I don't own any units 5 and above, but I own.
But what's your portfolio? Do you have a 20 doors portfolio?
No.
So do you have a track record of actually successfully managing properties? There's a bit more to it.
Okay.
So again, there's no line in the sand that if you're on this side, it's a no. If you're on this side, it's a yes. If you have experience even with single families and you had it for a long period of time, it gives you better chances depending on the asset you're going for. And that's exactly why we're here to discuss getting them creatively to bypass all that jazz, right? So thank you for that. So seller finance, aka seller assist, right? Anybody done that on a multifamily? No? Okay. So the number one reason why someone would want to sell you, in my opinion at least, is the tax implications. The second one is a divorce. He doesn't want his wife to get his money. It's just the way it is. These are like the top reasons. Now, When you're doing a seller finance, you're basically letting the seller become the bank, and it's almost like you're negotiating a loan with him as if you would with a bank, right? The advantages are numerous. First of all, you don't have to go through your job verification, your income taxes to show how much money you make. You don't have to fill out paperwork. You don't have to go through scrutinizing underwriters. You know, there's a lot to it, but you do have to get a good term sheet, quote unquote term sheet, meaning you got to get a good interest rate. You got to get a good amortization schedule. Amortization schedule is how long will the loan actually be for. So let me talk about the difference between an amortization schedule and a balloon. Okay? You can have a 30-year amortization schedule or 25, very common 25, more 15 to 20 in larger multifamilies. But I always try to get the 30. But you have a 5-year balloon, which means that they're going to call it due on year 5 or 10, or my favorite, 12. So if you know how to negotiate yourself a good seller finance deal, it's going to leave more money in your pocket, and it's going to help you structure a better deal for yourself overall. Let me explain. I'm going to give you 3 examples. One is a seller finance with a 5-year balloon, one with a 7 and one with a 10. Same amounts, all with 30-year amortization. If you have a 30-year amortization, it means what? Your payment is going to be less. Right?
Right.
But you're still due on year 5. Again, to your questions all the time, trying to get definitive guidelines. What's better? Year 5, year 10? I don't know. What are you trying to accomplish? What's the situation? My situation could be completely different than yours. What's going to be good for me not necessarily is going to be good for you. But at least you know what you're looking for. You're looking to try to get as much amortization schedule as possible to lower your payment so you can mitigate your risk with market fluctuations and vacancies, right, which is big, because if there's another complex building down the street or half a block or 2 blocks or half a mile away that open, then your vacancy goes from 90 to 70, which means you're making less income. So the lower your debt service is, the better you mitigate yourself from those fluctuations. Am I making sense to everybody?
Yep.
Okay, so
See, it's in the single family space, not the multifamily space, but I find often that balloons, especially in seller finance, is a confidence issue. The idea of someone extending you 30 years of credit or 15 years of credit is scary because they don't have any track record with you. So often I try to negotiate into balloons to 5-year balloon, but it has extensions based on if we've performed at a certain level, there hasn't been a missed payment, or set of criteria that gives them the security aspect of, I can get out of this marriage in 5 years if it's not any good, but also if I perform well, I get the benefits of that. So
100%, and this is more advanced.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. There's a lot of add-ons,
there's a million, like you said, there's a million.
and I appreciate you throwing it out here so people will know how much they can negotiate things. Like, nothing is set in stone. It all depends on what you're trying to accomplish and what they're willing to give. Because if you're trying to accomplish A and they're willing to give B, and you find common ground that neither one of you got what they asked, but you're okay with it, right? You didn't get A, didn't get B, but you're okay with what you got. So you can fine tune and enhance things in different ways. It depends on the level of security, trustworthiness that you have from, how you vibe with them, and where they're at in life. If it's a 75-year-old person that is just, he's like, I don't know how much time I got left. I just want to leave something for my kids. It's not likely for them to give you more extensions in 5 years, right? Not to say that it's not a good idea, because some people will, but that person, and this is again just me trying to induce some thinking by people to understand, because we cannot be with them in every single
Yeah, you gotta
deal,
understand the situation.
in every
Who
single
you got
situation.
to- What do they need?
Exactly. Find out what do they need. Have those conversations by asking what do they need. What are they looking for? What are they trying to get? What do they care about? Right? Because some people, now I know it's going to sound odd to you guys, they have too much money. Right? Having too much money is a problem. You get subject to a higher tax rate. You pay a lot of money in taxes. And so some people, they have a tax problem. They don't want to get so much money, and they want to give you a 12-year balloon, because by then they can 1031 exchange all the properties they know in 5 years they're going to get rid of. And whatever their game plan is, it's going to fit their game plan. So how would you know unless you ask? You cannot approach with a template to all those situations. You have to have conversations up front. One of the most amazing skill set that Pace has, he asks the questions and he knows how to listen. He knows how to listen so well. When I talk to people on the phone, you know how many times they ask me, "Hello, are you still there?" And I laugh and I smile and I say, "Yeah, I'm just a great listener." Right? That's why I want to let people talk. And you let people talk, you'll be amazed how much information they divulge, they say. It's mind blowing. Right? So you have to plan things based on their needs, not yours. It's never going to work otherwise. Okay, so we spoke about a lot of things. We spoke about balloons. We spoke about amortization schedules. We spoke about getting into the LLC. How about getting a multi-million-dollar multifamily without any money out of your pocket? After you force appreciated it by 40%. Would you like to know how to do that?
Yes.
Okay. So let's say I see the ugly duckling in the neighborhood, and let's say it's so ugly that I lose sleep over it. I just dream about it. I want it so bad. Because the uglier the better for me, right? Okay. So let's just say, it's a property that has 22 units and they want $2 million for it. And they say it's significantly below market value because A, it's ugly, neglected, and B, it's because only 15 units are actually rented, right? So it's high vacancy, right? What are you guys hearing?
Not manageable.
Cha-ching, yes. But be more specific.
Value add.
Thank you. Value add. But not through one avenue, which is
Force acquisition on rents.
force appreciation through rents and construction. Because it's ugly, right? All right. And the owner owns it under Missouri LLC. Guess where it's located?
Missouri.
I'm just messing with you.
I was going to go with Kansas, but
Kansas, all right, whatever floats your boat. Kansas, okay. So, you approach the person, you say, okay, listen, 2 million is a stretch. Why are you selling it? Oh, I don't even want to sell it. It's a great property. You know, sure, it needs some spackle, but it's a great property, you know? Yeah, so why are you only 15 units out of 20-some? Oh, that's because my dog died, and I've been mourning him for 3 years. And all the stories you get. Okay, so that pretty much leads nowhere, right? So how about, so let me ask you something. How old are you? You have kids? You have family? Do you have any other properties? How long have you been doing this for? Right? Did you build this? Because he's a carpenter, or he's a contractor, or he's a builder. How do you know? Because you ask him. You ask him, what do? You know, you talk to him. Number one talker in this room, Abraham Gary. He will talk to someone and not leave a shred of a secret in them. He's like a polygraph machine, walking polygraph machine. People open up to him. He's nice, he's kind, he's friendly, he's down to earth.
He wears sandals.
Flip-flops. Flip-flops, not sandals. Ask him, I'll tell you they're not the same. So, but why is he doing it? Because he's really smart. Because he knows that knowledge is power. Why would he blow all his steam about, so how about this deal structure? What about this deal structure? Or you know what about this offer or that offer? And that, why? He could be barking the wrong tree for weeks. Right? Talk to them. See what's their pain point. Understand what they're trying to achieve, what they're trying to accomplish. Buyers are liars, sellers are worse. Don't ask them why they sell the property. You're never going to get the truth. You might as well not ask. Right? Oh, I want to move to Florida. The guy lived in Alaska all his life. You know? I mean, okay. So, we get the seller, we say, okay, well, you know what are you trying to accomplish? Oh, you know, my kids are about to get to college, and I don't want them to go into debt. I don't want them leaving college with a lot of student debt. And I'm just trying to help them out like that, you know? Okay, so what college are you going to? I don't know. You said Kansas? Kansas College. Okay. Oh, well, that must be expensive. What does the tuition run there a year? Oh, it's crazy. It's like 40 grand. Okay. So 4 years, yeah, that's a lot of money, right? That's like $160, right? Okay. You know the guy needs $160, right? Are you following me here?
Yes.
Okay.
Or he needs four $40,000 payments over the next 4 years.
But do you have a good rapport with him? Do you feel that he's going to trust you with 4 payments?
Yeah.
Or he's just being, you know, an a-hole and he just doesn't want to open up? You know? So you don't go with a 4 installment, but, you know, if in 10 minutes you got his dog on your lap and his dog's licking you, you know he's sold.
Yeah.
Because whoever likes his dog, it's a done deal. Then you can freaking go in with 5 payments, bro. You know? Every situation is different. You gotta adjust. Pivot and adjust, pivot and adjust. That's how you get a good deal structure. So, you understand that's what he's trying to accomplish. So you tell him, you know what, instead of, oh, I'm sorry, let me ask you something. Do you have a mortgage on the place? So no, it's free and clear. Okay. So let me get this straight. You wanted to sell it for $2 million and you actually wanted to get $2 million cash. You know how much tax you're going to pay? 10%, no? Well, maybe 40. 40%, really? Yeah, 40%. What does that come up to? So how much you going to end up with? Why don't you just sell or finance it to me? You're going to hold a note. You're going to be the bank. You're going to have a lien. And I'm going to, instead of paying for a bank, I'm going to pay you. And you give me, say, 3%, because I love Fluffy. And she really feels me, she's on my lap. right? And let's do it. I don't know, 3%? How about 4? Oh, okay. Will you get anything less than 8% nowadays for that? Hell no. Hell no. All right? Okay. So you got somewhere. Why? Because you asked, because you listened, and you made informed decisions that are based on the information that was given to you and not just shooting from the hip all the time. Any questions about this? No? Okay. So you get that property, which is the ugly duckling. 15 units are occupied. We said it's 22 units? And it's not in Kansas. Where was it?
This one's in Missouri now.
In
We
Missouri.
thought it was in Kansas, but we
Thank
were
you,
lost.
Missouri.
It's actually in Missouri.
Okay. So you ended up calling Alexis Morgan. Hey Alexis, you know someone with money? I need like 180K. Oh, what do you need it for? I have this multifamily property looking at. Yeah, I know a guy by the name of Abram Gray. He probably can lend it to you because you go through the deal. You tell her, listen, this is a $2 million property. I need 180.
Yeah.
Like it's a no-brainer, right? And then you talk to Abe. And Abram, being the guy I told you 5 minutes ago, then knows how to talk to people and get all their secrets out. He's talking to you and telling you, hold on, it's a $2 million property. You want 180, and you have to fix it for how much you think? I don't know, like 200. So why don't I just give you 380? You buy it, you fix it, you get the bank to come and reappraise it at 2.6 million, maybe. Right? Listen carefully, because I've done that, and it's beautiful. Beautiful. Because that property, well, I don't want to go too deep. How did I did this and got $700,000 in my pocket tax-free? Didn't pay $1 in taxes for it. Not in Missouri, not in Kansas. Okay, this is how. Did I get your attention? Okay. So Abram's giving you $380,000 from one of his hard money lenders, right? You're giving that guy, he's 180. You got $200,000 for construction. You do the construction. You repopulate 22 units. Now you have 100% occupancy, right? You have a much nicer property. You call the bank. Hey, Mr. Banker, how are you? I'm good, how are you? Well, so listen, I have this gorgeous property, right? You have to come and look at it. Okay. Yeah, it's nice, let's get it appraised. Appraiser comes at 2.6 million. Everything is cash flowing. You're getting likely 80% loan to value. Some people in this room, like Aaron, could do it in their head and tell you exactly the amount, 80% out of 2.6. But let's just say, and it's probably a mistake, but let's just say it's 2.4 million. Let's just say it's 2.3 million. How's that, okay? You get 2.3 million. You count the money for Abe, which is 380, his fee, and you're giving him a tip because he was such a nice person to transact with. And you're sending Alexis a really nice gift for connecting you. I wanted to say a tip, but I'm trying to keep this clean. So, gift in the form of $100 bills, right? How much you left with? Anybody wants to pull a calculator? Because I'm tired. 2.6 minus 80% equals
Right about,
2018.
right about two.
Yeah,
Right about back to about 2 million.
2 million, yeah.
I'm keeping the numbers
Okay,
real. I'm
round.
not
2 million,
exaggerating.
yeah.
2 million
Right, 2 million.
minus 380, let's say
Minus
390, plus the tip, plus Alexis gift.
Okay.
Minus 420 at 1.66 million.
1.6, yeah.
That's what you left with?
1,660,000, yeah.
Right. 1.6 million, right? Are you getting taxed for that 1.6 million? Where's that one?
You gotta pay the owner. Yeah, that first
Oh, we
mortgage.
have a balloon. We have a balloon.
Oh, so you're getting this on top of the existing mortgage? So I'll give you a second.
Hold on now. Hold on now. There's a mortgage, right? So you have the debt. The debt doesn't go away. You don't pay the debt. You have the debt. Who's paying the debt, by the way?
The tenants.
Thank you. Now you're getting there. So you have an extra $1 million in your hand that you are not paying for because you borrow that money because it's debt and debt doesn't get taxed, right? And then the tenants are paying for the debt, and then you take that $1 million. Matter of fact, what you do, you take a construction loan with that, and you build something that you make 50% of your money on top of it. And then you refinance and you do the same thing over and over again. So this is like a BRRRR on steroids with a lot of zeros. Yeah. And that's kind of like what I do.
Or you can
Same
give it to
thing like you
Alexis and
do,
make
just
money
on a
it.
little bit bigger scale. Sorry?
You can give it to Alexis and make money on it. She loaned it
Yeah.
out.
How can we do a deal like this? What is this? Like now that I understand, what does it look like to get a deal done like this?
What does it take?
Yeah, like how do I find a deal? Like I understand how to negotiate, but if I'm gonna do a
Not
BRRRR,
multifamily, but okay. But you can learn because you're gonna do a few and then you're gonna learn it like anything else. It's a little bit more complicated though, and it takes more experience to know how to ask the right questions, how to know what you're looking at, because you can look at something and you don't even know what you're looking at. Or even worse, know-it-alls. They think they know, no idea. They go the opposite way. Yeah, see it all the time. So you usually
Hey, Doron, before
team
you,
up with somebody that knows. Yeah.
when you refinance it, don't you have to pay that balloon though?
In 5 years or 10 years, how much is the asset going to be worth?
Okay.
Can you refi again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay? Because I had a property that was 3.2, and in 5 years, I refied 5 million out of it. So the 5 million was 80% of the actual worth. Because it's appreciating. You like the goosebumps? So, because why? Because you have force multipliers.
but
You don't have one door
Is there
that you're increasing. So check it out. What's the average nationwide rent increase in the country?
I don't know, 5%,
Sorry?
maybe 5% a year.
Maybe 5%. It's more like 10 because landlords, especially on multifamily, they want to hedge risk instead of against inflation, which is an average of 3%, 2%. Because what happens is their property management is costing more because now the plywood is costing more and the gas for their vehicles to send the property management guys is costing more. Inflation, right? So 10%. So if you have 22 doors, 10% a year increase, right? And this is just an example. Could be 7, could be 8. Rough numbers just to get the message across. Are you increasing your NOI by 50% in 5 years, yes or no?
Yes, 100%. And
Thank
not
you.
just by market.
And does that mean that you're increasing the value of it, yes or no?
Yes, 100%.
Thank you. So does that mean that you can refi at a higher evaluation?
Yeah.
You understand the game?
And it's not just market rent. You can, I've painted parking lot and I put 30K worth of carports in a multifamily and increased the rent by $30 a month, added
Well, there's some
laundry.
zoning restrictions and
A lot.
some,
It gets a lot to it. It's not just market rent, but yeah.
well, the zoning restrictions as far as the parking lot.
Correct.
In multifamily, but even more so on the topic of parking, there's actually some areas you can't buy multifamilies unless you have a 1.4 ratio to the amount of doors you have for parkings.
Correct.
So if you're building 30 units, 60 units, multiply that by 1.4, that's how many parking spots you have to have in order to be allowed to build. Right? And if you build something that wasn't done based on that and you want to do construction on it, now it's on your hand to do it the way that it needs to, because now you're improving it and now you have to be up to code. Sorry, go ahead.
So when you refinance it, now you have two debts, the seller finance and the banks?
Yeah.
Yeah, in essence, yes. But if you play with the money the right way, you don't have to use the whole 1 million. You can take 400,000 and put it somewhere, and then refi and put the difference on top of it, and then you got to think things through and you got to plan ahead.
I was thinking just with the both interest, like monthly payments to the seller and to the bank, would rents be enough to sustain?
Again,
both numbers?
look at the numbers; they have to work. But those plays are done. Like what I'm telling you, the plays are done. The numbers have to pan out, of course, 100%, 1,000%, right? But those plays happen all the time. And I've done those plays where I refied the money out after I forced the appreciation. I took that money, which was tax-free. Some of it I used for whatever I wanted to use, and the rest of it I put down in order for the next one to do that again. So in essence, I never used my own money. I started with Abraham's money by calling Alexis. It wasn't even my money. She got a free gift out of it, by the way, which is great. She deserves it. She gave me the hookup. But I never had my money in the deal from the beginning. Right? And I can talk from here to the wazoo, right? On year 7, I can go to him, hey, you looking for a multifamily? Yeah. Okay, well, what kind of value can you drive me? I can do this, I can do that, I can bring you 100K. You can bring 100K, what about 150? Yes? Okay. He's your partner. Like there, you can go on and on and on, but the basic is that play is so powerful because of the force multipliers. When you have so many doors, the multiplier effect really makes a difference. Because if you raise 10% a year on a single family, 600 rent, 660, you know, but if you multiply that by 22, it's different numbers, right? Same thing with vacancy. All right, I don't want to get carried on. I can talk about multifamily. Was that useful to anybody here?
Can I ask a question about the
Yeah.
the loans themselves? So the seller themselves, are they in first position? Because you said you also got
If it's
another
free and
lender.
clear, if it's free and clear,
Yeah.
yes.
And then
If there's a bank, their first position, he's second.
Okay. So in that scenario, and that one you're talking about was the
It was
bank?
free and clear.
Right. Okay.
That scenario, it was free and clear. So if he's coming first position with the note, and then you're getting a bank in, likely the bank wouldn't want to go second position. But guess what? They can buy him out at closing. Another way. There you go. Thank you for your question. Here's another way. Free and clear. They're buying him out. You have a loan. That's another way. However you're looking at it, you can turn it around. Different angles. You have no money out of pocket. Great question, though.
It's interesting.
Oh, for sure. Yes.
What's been your best or most consistent entry point to meeting with those sellers? That direct to seller. How are you finding? Do you find the property first, or is it like a networking thing where you're meeting people like attorneys or something like that? What is? estates?
So so there's that too, like off market and on market.
Off-market.
Off market, I would say probably relationships. Relationships, either from wholesalers, or if you have a market area, like Abram is like the sheriff of Atlanta. He knows everybody. Everybody knows him. He'll get off market deals like you and I would never get.
Yeah.
Because he knows his territory. I'm in Philly, not the sheriff, but I know a lot of people. He's basing a lot of his weight in Atlanta, which is a great business strategy, because nobody does Atlanta better than him. But me, I work in a lot of markets, so for me it's a different strategy, but I still know people, right? And when you know those people, he's also smart enough to take care of them. So when they get a deal, they're like, I can call Abe, I can call Johnny, I can call Ruth, but Abe's always looking out to me. Last time Ruth didn't pay me on time or whatever. He's also smart enough to nurse those relationships. So that's the key to success. People and take care of them. Hands down, all the time. Any other questions?
For somebody tackling multifamily, if you were to suggest, would it be a 6-unit, 12-unit, 18-unit, 22-unit? JV with somebody experienced? Like, if there was a deal here in Atlanta, I'd be like, hey, Doron, would you partner with us? What would that deal structure look like?
It has to be making sense for everybody, right? Like, if there's not enough spread, I don't want to be in it and take, the profit. It has to make sense. It has to make sense. It's not a question of 6 or 20. I try not to do things less than 100 units. If you give me a good or find a good deal for me to work, if it's 17 units, 20 units, and it's an amazing deal, I have to be stupid to say no. So I'll never say never, right? But the deal has to make sense. He's not in multifamily. He'll do a 6 unit. If it's like a killer deal, I mean, I can't speak for him, but you can't put things in boxes and say if it fits this box, if it doesn't. Just give me a shout out and I'll always be happy to look at it, Hey.
Hi, how are you? Welcome. All things considered, you do a lot of new construction, yeah? So if you had the choice of pre-existing property and units or to do new development, would your preference, and if so, why?
That's a great question. So the new construction is a longer play. If it's a new construction with development, meaning that it's not shovel ready, you can just buy it and build. You actually have to entitle the land. It's even a bigger cycle. I do stuff that takes 2 years. My resort took me over 3 years and I still didn't get all my money out with a refi because I got to stabilize it for another year, so it's 4 years. Like entrance to exit, money-wise. So I like to have both because while I'm waiting for this cycle to end, I can flip this one here, so it's almost like I have different pots on the stove, and I just jump from one. One's a slower roast, one is like a quick deep fried, right? But now I'm converting more to acquisition because I kind of reached my goals with my new construction and my developments. So I'm more doing the acquisition side of things. What would you like to do? That's your decision. I don't know. What's your portfolio? What do you have a taste for? What do you enjoy? What's your level of income? Again, different people have different needs. If they're in different scenarios, there's no one rule fits all, if it makes sense. Please.
When you buy one and it's a value add, what is your sweet spot of time frame to rehab it and force appreciation? Do you have a sweet spot, like you like that to be under a year, just for example? do you have a specific time frame you'd like it to be in?
So if it's a value add for rents, usually you have to factor in and perform at least 12 months. Because you can't like one shot have everyone pay you more rent. And you do it gradually also not to shock the system. You don't want a lot of people leaving. They get a letter in the mail starting next month. It's going to increase. It doesn't work that way. So what you do, you wait for the turnover. When someone's leaving, then that's the easier time. And usually you have 12-month contracts. Where I'm at, some places it's month by month. So you can actually do it a little bit faster. But when I do performance, I hope for the best like everyone else, but I always prepare for the worst and take, abundance of cautions and layers of, risk shoulders as far as those times, because if not, you can find yourself in deep trouble very quickly, So if it's rent, if it's construction, it depends on the construction. Is it like, lipstick on a pig, or is it more extensive? But you don't want to have too many units down at the same time when you're doing the construction also. So that takes time. If you're doing 2 units at a time, it also takes time. So I want to say conservatively, without knowing all the doors, like if it's 100 unit or 50 unit, budget for a year. That's a safe guideline. Thank you. Anything else? How much time did I? Jesus. You were having way too much fun.
Too much fun.
Okay.
We went to Missouri. Somebody took us to Kansas.
Missouri, Kansas. Yeah.
Alaska, Miami.
What
Yeah.
states do you like to buy in?
Multifamily in Atlanta is great, right? Atlanta for sure, mainly Midwest, Southwest, red states, landlord friendly. My sweet spot's around 100 to 150. Bigger is not necessarily better. But again, like I said, if there's a great deal for 20 units, 50 units, the numbers are amazing. Hell yeah, I'm down. Thank you.